Will the dead rise once again? Let's find out. Welcome to Tattoo Tabletop. My name is James, and today we are taking a look at the new Soulblight Gravelords Battletome. Obviously, this is the special edition codex that's in the Death Rattle or the Barrow Kingdom box, Barrow box, whatever it is. So I got a copy of it here, and it came in this fantastic little sleeve thing that they started doing. You can absolutely bet that I'm going to cut off this this cover here, and I'm going to put it probably in a print at some point. And of course, comes with the fantastic war scroll cards right in here. So let's get into it. So let's start with number one. Let's just cover the ground rules here. So obviously there are plenty of other people who have already gotten the book, a lot of previewers who have gone through the book. Some have flipped through the book, shown every single page. Some have gone through every single rules, covered every single change. There are things that I will address in some of those that are going to talk about some of the changes, some of the things that will be coming out around it. But for the most part, I'm going to just try and give you the overview, the cliff note. Why? Because you get enough of it. If you want the full detailed ones, there's plenty of those. I'm just here to give you a sense of what's to come, a sense of what the Soulblight Gravelords have migrated into, and, you know, how they might shape up in the meta as a whole. So let's dive into it. Let's cover a few things right off the bat. Here at Tattoo Tabletop, we have a lot of fun, so be sure to like, share, subscribe down below. It's completely free and it helps me out. Now back to the video. Number one, this is one of the few battle tomes I want to say that we've lost a lot more war scrolls. Now specifically, I do kind of understand why this is. A lot of the war scrolls were tied to Cursed City. Specifically, we're looking at the Viracos Bloodborne, we're looking at Torgillis, Halgrim, Gorzlov. There's a lot of the Cursed City miniatures that have just flat out been axed. Understandably, in the fact that, you know, Cursed City was a limited release. However, I kind of wish they would have held on to them throughout the end of the edition. But alas, they are disappearing with this book. Other things that are disappearing, that guy up there, Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. It is just going to be Vordrive. Vordrive is the only named one. That one also kind of stings a little bit, just because I kind of understand, but alas, it is what it is. So hop on into what we're looking at here. When it comes to the rules, they play very much the same in the fact that you can put Death Rattle or Deadwalker units into a grave. They can pop up out of the grave. More specifically, though, the terrain piece that's coming is the Cursed Sepulchres, which you're going to get 3 of them. And that's going to kind of allow you a little bit of mobility. They'll kind of be deployed like gnaw holes for Skaven. But you're going to be able to deploy within there. And of course, it's still, you have some of the other things like the Rising Dead, where if you could do it, you know, you can do it edge, you could do near the Cursed Sepulchre. And then, of course, when you decide to replenish your legions, the Endless Legions ability, you can do it any movement phase, but if you do it during your opponent's movement phase, you have to be more than 9 inches away. But if you do it during your movement phase, you can set them up more than 3 inches away, but you still can't charge. So they have recursion, they have abilities to come back, which implies that you're going to run bigger blocks, bigger blobs. And the idea of Soulblight Gravelords is to burden you. Realistically, like, when you think of Soulblight Gravelords, you don't think of a super killy army. It's not there to wipe you off the table like Iron Jaws. Iron Jaws wants to get into you as soon as humanly possible and bash you off the table. Soulblight Gravelords is not what that is. They are there to tie you down and steal objectives from you and bring back more units and just harass you. They are the unquiet dead, and this is their movement forward. So a lot of that is very much the same. Vampires, of course, when they use a fight ability, can heal D3. If they kill something, they can use 2D3. Very fun. It very, very thematic for them. So very much the same, but now we have the Cursed Sepulchres as opposed to using the terrain layouts. Right now, it's still 3 inches away from all units, objectives, and other terrain features. Depending on the footprint, that could be a little tricky, depending on some of the layouts, but there's ways to play around that. And of course, definitely Invocation, which is your recursion mechanic. Basically, you can pick a hero and then they can pick up to 3 Death Rattle or Deadwalker units, hold you within 12, and you can either heal 3 or replenish units up to 3. You know, usually 3 Death Rattle, 3 zombies, whatever, or, you know, 1 dog. Puppy Pen is still very real in this book. They did change around some of the artifacts. We now have the Terminus Clock, which on a 3-up in your hero phase. You can subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards while they're within 18 of this unit. Now, that one could be nice. I mean, -1 to casting is a good thing to have, especially if they're trying to cast in your turn. Now they're technically -2, which could be beneficial. But however, there is also the Amulet of Graves. I think this one's a little bit stronger in my opinion, where if there are fewer than 3 cursed sepulchres on the battlefield, set up a cursed sepulchre on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from all enemy units, and more than 1 from friendly, and more than 3 from all objectives and terrain features. So basically just meaning if you put out your cursed sepulchre and for some reason it gets destroyed, you get to put a new one, you get to put another one there. Of course, it's once per battle. So just get that. Otherwise, you still have the Bacchanal Blood for the battle formations. You have, so again, a lot of this is still very drag down, torn apart. Pick up to 3 Deadwalker units, make a pile in on a roll a d3 on a 2-up, they inflict mortal wounds. Very similar mechanics to what we've seen from other factions, just with you know, a spooky twist. They also have the Death March, you know, add 1 to rend characteristics for friendly Death Rattle units at charge. So all the bone boards, all your Death Rattle skeletons, your Barrel Guard, they're all Death Rattle. So, and you know, we still have some of their heroic traits. They changed a little bit. One's add d6 to the control score, one's reroll charges, and you know, Lash to the Sire, your hero phase on a 2-up, they can move d6 inches. Just can't move into combat, which understandable. Spells more or less the same. You have Vile Transference, which is the horde clearing spell. We all kind of have a version of this somewhere in our, a lot of armies have it in their repertoire. You know, roll as many dice for as many models as there are in the unit on a 6 or whatever. It does mortal wound, and then for each model that is slain by it, you can actually heal d3, if any models were slain, you heal d3, so just the 1 d3. It goes up on a 7. A lot of spells here go off on a 7. Just to preface this, I'll go through it all as we get to the end as well, but kind of an important bit. We still have Prison of Grief within 12, goes on a 7, gives Strike Last, so they still have an option of Strike Last, and they also still have Waste Away, again within 12. Subtract 1 from the damage characteristics. So very, very importantly, except for Vile Transference, which is within 18, every single one of these is within 12. So you're going to have to get kind of close if you want to pull these off. Now, that being said, you're potentially going to have a lot of vampires, so you're going to have a lot of casts. There's lists that I've made that have 7 casts. I don't even think that there's anything that, I mean, even if I took Morbid Conjuration, that's 4 casts, and then I would need to do 1 of each one of these spells. So I mean, realistically, sky's the limit. At that point, you might as well start banishing if you get to that level. They have the new manifestations. We'll cover those a little bit later. But again, I just kind of want to try and give you a brief overview. We're already at 8 minutes. I'm trying to go as fast as I can here so that we can kind of get an idea. Now, there are some changes. We obviously have a new Vordry. He's very scary because he's the only vampire lord on a zombie dragon now. But it's a Revenant Draconeth. It's a former, let's just go with a former subject of Krondus and Garazai's race, and he joined with Prince Vordry. They have a whole plot in here. It's actually kind of a fun little read. I'm thoroughly enjoying reading the lore just to see what they've been up to and how they've been handling the Hour of Ruin, the big Skaven emergence. So that's been kind of fun. Manfred still here doing his kind of shenanigans. You know, his big thing being charging, giving on 3-up, giving strike first. Decent damage profiles on the Mortarks, and including Laukavai and even like a Vengorian Lord. I can see a Monster Mash of this kind of list caliber doing all right. Again, I'm not going to go into too many details. Kato has been replaced. He has been replaced by the Blades of the Hollow King, which is Kato, Aurelius, and Cassandra. I still haven't finished the newest book, Dead Kingdom. I'm suspecting they're going to be in there. I could be wrong. A couple different abilities. You know, you can have Aurelius add 1 to his power level, so then he's a Wizard 2, which is actually kind of nice. That's 1 unit that gives you a Wizard 2. Each of them have 6 health, 4-up save, 2 control. Not terrible. Move 6, and they look cool. Here's the thing. Look at this book. You see this cover? This cover's pretty cool. I love me some vampires. I love me some zombies. I'm on board, and I will say, just to speak to myself, my personal favorite vampire is Radikar the Beast. Half vampire, half werewolf. How do you not love that? And believe you me, he's going to make it into my list. I don't care. That being said, his rules I think are actually kind of solid. He is pretty scary. 6 attacks, crit mortals, 3 threes, 2 -2, 3 damage, and his Virko's Bloodborne, the little guys that are, you know, drinking from his fingers. That sounds weird. 6 attacks, 3 threes, -1, 2 damage. He can, at the end of a turn, he can move d6 and he can move into combat. If he charges, he adds +1 to wound for death rattle and deadwalkers. I really like the idea of running Radikar in a Bacchanal of Blood, giving him +1 to his casting, and also giving him +1 to wounds, so then he's 3s 2s, which is fantastic. And he does have a spell that goes off on a 6, which in turn would go on a 5, which would give him subtract 1 from hit and wound rolls that target him. It kind of makes him pretty scary. He's at 12 health at a 4-up save, and he moves 8. Control 5. That's a scary boy. Radikar is definitely going to make it in my list regardless because he's just really cool. And I actually do really like the Viracos. I think the Viracos are one of my favorite dynasties. So obviously we're getting Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed, which is really, really cool to see. And it's kind of a fun little cavalry. Now we have a model that can run with the Blood Knights, and let me tell you what we're really going to see. We're going to see this Vampire Lord on Steed. It's going to run with Blood Knights. With its ability, it's going to reroll charges. And not to mention that it can countercharge, and then it can pick them. They can countercharge, and then they can reroll charges. It's going to make them incredibly scary. If I was going to spell out lists that we're probably really going to see at the beginning of this new book, as soon as it goes into effect and as soon as we have some of the other models, we're going to see Blood Knights spam. We're going to see a ton of Blood Knights. We're going to see this new Vampire Lord on Skeletal Steed here, and we're going to see Prince Vordry. Those 3 units are all just going to run together. They're going to be absolutely terrifying. Vordry is going to give himself strike first. He's going to bounce into things. You're going to have the Vampire Lord that's probably going to give it, its own. It can even just use its spell because it's going to get close. And then, of course, when they charge, pick friendly Blood Knights that charged, and they get +1 to their rend, that's going to make them an incredibly scary unit because they're going to move up to 3 attacks, 3 threes, rend 1, going up to rend 2 for that, and then rend 3 if it's infantry, damage 2. That's going to carve through a lot. It's only 2 damage, but it is, people underestimate the ability, and they also do impact mortals, or they do, when they charge and they pass through something, they can do impact mortal, or they can do mortals. They're going to be a very scary unit. So if I was going to pick a build that we're going to see, we're for sure going to see Prince Vordry, we're going to see Blood Knights, and we're going to see the new Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed. Some of these things saw changes, some of them saw less changes. Obviously, we have a new White King, on Skeletal Steed, and we have a new White Lord on Skeletal Steed. I actually have the White King dude somewhere. I want to say he's up here somewhere. I still haven't painted him. Probably should. I'll have to just make sure that he's on the right base. I think it's kind of nice though, right? Because now it gives people, there are plenty of people who I saw in comments when they were talking about the Battletome, when they were talking about the models, that were kind of excited to run no vampires, and maybe some necromancers, but really just run an all death rattle, skeleton horde army. And I think that's cool. I appreciate that this book gives you that flexibility to do so, because you have a solid amount of leader characters in here that are going to be able to take advantage of your death rattle skeletons, of your barrow guard, etc., etc. One of the things I did want to bring up, because obviously in the box itself you get 20 barrow guard, which is awesome. Barrow guard are obviously the new replacement for grave guard, but more specifically, the one thing I found very interesting is at the bottom of the page it does say musician 1 of 5, standard bearer 1 of 5. Leads me to believe, or to ask the question, are the barrow guard in a unit 5? If they're a unit of 5, I don't think I know a single person who's going to run them in a unit of 5. They have a 4-up save and they have 1 health. I mean, someone charges into you, does D3 mortals, you fail all your 6s, you've lost 3 of your 5. You're already gone. Or if there are in units of 10, you just get double banners and double musicians. I'm not quite sure, but it leads me to believe that they're in a unit of 5, and I'm not really sure about that. Necromancer, this one I found particularly interesting, and this one I do want to actually call out specifically. Van Hel's Dance Macabre, which is allows the unit to fight twice, specifically a Death Rattle or Deadwalkers unit. This is something that was particularly scary. This is the reason why you brought Necromancers. So first and foremost, you have to spend a CP to begin with. You have to spend a command point, and then roll a dice. On a 3-up, the target can use 2 fight abilities that phase after the first is used. However, then it has strike last for the rest of the turn. I don't know how to feel about it, if I'm being honest. It's interesting that you're being expected to spend a CP and to roll a dice, especially since these units aren't particularly deadly. Even if you take Barrel Guard, 2 attacks per, 3s. So, I mean, you can run a block of 10. At best, you're doing 21 attacks, 3s, crit mortals, which would be nice, but no rerolls or anything. So, grand total of 42 attacks, which is a lot, but I mean, you can get crit ghouls up to that with just, you know, 6-up cast on, you know, Deranged Transformation, and then just all attacking them. So, I mean, you're still spending a CP, but like, they also get crit auto. Versus, you know, the Barrel Guard get crit mortals. So I'm not sure how I feel about the spending a CP and then having the roll, especially once I believe it's Slave's Darkness. Do you have that kind of just built in where you just, it's once per game, and coming from a unit of Chosen or something like that, it's far scarier and far deadlier. But again, that's also going to probably be reflective of points, right? Because when Chosen die, then Chosen don't come back, as opposed to you could run a 10 block of Barrel Guard, they die, you bring back another unit of 5. I mean, the idea is that you're going to try and bring back your army as often as possible. You're supposed to be the unrelenting dead. It kind of makes sense. It's just going to be a little different, obviously, if you're running Pure Blood Knights and Vordry and Vampire Lord and Nightmare Steed, so on and so forth. The new new manifestations are kind of cool. The Hand of Nagash is like a really cool looking model, which stops you from doing move abilities, which could be good, could really lock you into combat there potentially, but I think it does that anyway, because realistically, I think the biggest thing that's going to stop you from is it's going to stop you from retreating. You can't retreat from the Hand of Nagash because that would be a move ability. And then otherwise, the Holy Reliquary can heal some more, so keep your vampires. I mean, especially on Vordry, if he's fighting, healing D3, and then you're giving him the unholy, then the combat phase, you're doing this Unholy Reliquary, and he's healing D3 again. The idea being that you can get a lot of healing to keep him up, to keep him doing damage, and to keep him messing stuff up. He is going to be a nightmare. The Prince Vordry is going to be terrifying. Cursed Sepulchres look really cool, even just as, you know, scatter terrain on a board. It's awesome. I'm all for it. Let's just dive into it. What are my thoughts on this book? I'm honestly not sure. I'm kind of still processing. I'll have to see them in practice. Again, I think the thing that we're truly going to see out of this book that's going to be extremely strong is going to be Vordry the Blood Knights and the Vampire Lord on Nightmare Steed. That combination alone is going to do a lot of work, and that is going to be a killy vampire list. So it's not really going to play into the Death Rattle or the Deadwalker component. Maybe they'll have a unit of Direwolves for secondaries. Maybe they'll do it with Vargeist or something, who knows, but that's going to be their units. That's going to be their army that's there to kill, and they do have a regiment of renown, or an army of renown, sorry, not regiment, army. That's going to make them especially scary as well. Update. So, as of recording the video and I was editing, you know, as you previously heard, I was a little distraught over some of the models that were disappearing from the Soulblight Gravelords. And then, a little surprise. It turns out Games Workshop released a Soulblight Gravelords supplement. So supplement, for those who don't know, is an additional bit to a book or something like that. It's a bit more common in Warhammer 40,000 in terms of, you know, you'll have a Space Marine Codex and then you'll have a Dark Angels supplement or an additive to it. But they released a Soulblight Gravelords additive supplement, and it is incredible. It includes all the units that are disappearing. Now, they do call it a few specific things. So at the beginning of the supplement, again, of which you can find on Warhammer community site under downloads, they included that the Graveguard no longer exists, the Black Knights no longer exist, and the Zombie Dragon don't exist because obviously Graveguard are now Barrow Guard, Black Knights are now Barrow Knights, and the Zombie Dragon is now Revenant Draconets. So you can still use those models provided that they're on the correct bases and they provide the updated base sizes. So those are definitely changed, but it at least allows you that option. Now, there is some lore in there, which is also fantastic, but the bigger jump out of all this is we have not only the war scrolls for these different things, we have new rules for these different models. So we actually have these in effect, and these will be updated as of May 2025. You'll have Torgillus, you'll have all the cursed city models, and they're gonna have their own rules. So every single one of these models and these war scrolls are actually gonna be valid for competitive play until June 1st of 2026. So this is actually offering a grieving period. I'm calling it a grieving period because it's always sad when models leave a range of any kind, of any army, but it's awesome. I massively applaud GW for this, for allowing us that extra year to play with these models and to get this time in, because oftentimes, as we've known in the past, it's just been dropped and that's it. It's not a conversation. They're just out of existence permanently. I think this is a massive win, and I really think that Games Workshop handling this way is the best way possible. It means that we get more time with these models. Again, it still hurts that they're leaving, but to have this year, over a year of grieving, where we can actually play them competitively, still paint them up. Maybe you just got these models and you're like, seriously, they're already gone. But they're not. You're gonna have an entire year to play with it, and I personally massively appreciate that. I think that's incredible. I think that's a big win for this book, and I really hope that this is Games Workshop's approach not only to Age of Sigmar going forward, but also Warhammer 40,000, where if there are models that are going out, that they give us that time, that brief moment of just being like, all right, just to give you a heads up, they're on their way out, but we want you to have as much fun with them as you can, and we'll keep these up to date as long as they're valid, which is fantastic. So one last little additive that I think is super awesome is it's not only just giving us the war scrolls for some of these models that are on their way out, but it's also giving us a battle formation, a nice little surprise. And this battle formation is called the Legions of Ulfenkarn, which I think is awesome because that's the Cursed City, that's Radikar, that's the Virkos, and I absolutely adore the Virkos. They're personally my favorite. Radikar is chilling right up there somewhere. He's hiding. He's probably that really pale guy right there. But what they have is their passive ability, Wardens of the Wolf. Each time one or more slain models are returned to a friendly Soulblight Gravelords infantry or beast unit wholly within 12 of a friendly Belladama Volga, Radikar the Wolf, Radikar the Beast, Evia Volga, Lady Annika, Kritza, Torgilus the Chamberlain, Gorzlov Gracekeeper, or Watch Captain Halgrim, add 1 to the number of slain models returned to that unit. So basically your Deathly Invocation, it's pretty much your Lords of the Manor from the Flesh Eater Courts, but specifically towards the Soulblight Gravelords and specifically towards the Virkos models. So now you could run this battle formation in that Lords of the Manor manner? Wow. But basically you can run that formation with a bunch of the Virkos models, a bunch of the Cursed Cities models, and then that way every time you do Deathly Invocation, so let's say you're picking your 3 units and you're returning 3 models or whatever, you're going to get an extra 1, which is super cool to see. That means that you're going to have a little bit of, in my opinion, a little extra recursion. I could see this battle formation actually making an appearance. I mean, there's going to still be a lot of really strong arguments for Vordry, Blood Knights, etc. That is still very much going to be a thing. I still really like the Bacchanal of Blood, giving the +1 to casting, especially when a lot of your spells go off on 7s. Moving them up to 6s is just a little bit better. But this actually completely shifted my review, so I'm actually glad that I got to see this and that I'm able to edit this before it comes up. This moves the Battletome up in my book. I was about a solid 70-30 on how I felt about the Battletome as a whole. It didn't shift up a ton of rules, a couple changes here and there, but most of which was clearing out a lot of those models. And at the time of recording them, I thought they were just flat out gone. And then I heard about this, took a look, and I am super happy. I am super stoked for Soulblight Gravelords players. You're going to be able to get your Cursed Sepulchres. You're going to get the Blades of the Hollow King, because this also includes a single Cato Ezekiar, so you can run him by himself, or you can run him in the Blades of the Hollow Knight, which is awesome. I think that's going to add a lot more diversity. So you're going to have these models. You're going to have until June 1st, 2026 to play with them. I am very excited to see what we get out of this. I'm very excited to see Soulblight Gravelords lists show up. I hope we see some 5.0s and we get some really cool highlights for them. And it's nice to know that we're not just getting war scrolls, but we also got a battle formation in here. For me, the Soulblight Gravelords actually does now get a kind of a 2 thumbs up. It was kind of a 1 thumbs up before. I was still excited about it, but it really did hurt to lose those models. But now seeing that those are actually still going to be present and that you'll be able to use them for up to a year, I think that's awesome. I think that's a big win. I think GW taking this approach going forward is an incredible way to upgrade their ranges while allowing people to enjoy the models that they do have for a good period of time. So that way the transition is much smoother. It's a nice form of communication. Of course, if you're still not Be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. Well, that's been my review of the Soulblight Gravelords Battletome. Let me know if you got it down in the comments down below. Are you excited? Are you jumping in? I know quite a few people who absolutely love and adore the Soulblight Gravelords, love the vampires, love the skeletons, the horror element of it. Let me know down in the comments down below if that's what you're doing, if that's what you're running. Let me know what list you're running. Let me know what units stand out to you from looking at it. But until next time, I think it sounds like you got a lot of skeletons to paint, so you should probably go paint something.